one point I'd just like to make, and I think this is not well understood. The largest financial institution in the world, by far, is Fannie. If you think of Fannie and Freddie as one entity, they have approaching $6 trillion of outstanding liabilities. How much capital do they hold against those liabilities? The answer is zero. And that is a stunning fact, right? So if you think about what causes the financial crisis, the cause of the financial crisis were large, highly levered financial institutions that did not have adequate capital relative to the risks they were exposed to. You could say Fannie and Freddie didn't have enough capital going into the crisis, but here we are, it's 7 years after the crisis, and because of the government's expropriation of 100% of the profits of these entities, which the government books as income on the government income statement, right, the taxpayer income statement offsetting debts, you've got a very large financial, the largest in the world, that literally has no capital, because each quarter, as they generate a profit, the government steps in and takes all of that money, books it as income. So it's actually a massive accounting fraud, if you think about it. Now, in all seriousness, right, you're booking the dividends from Fannie and Freddie as if it's income. You have a financial institution that should be holding hundreds of billions of dollars of capital that has zero. So, and I think if I'm a Republican running for office and I want to attack the Democrats, I would attack that. It's irresponsible to allow the largest financial institution in the world to hold no capital. If I'm, period.
So I think one thing, come on up to the mic to ask questions, and while you're walking, I'll say we can all agree that we've found ourselves one of those important stories that's not sufficiently covered in the press, right?
Thank you, Columbia.
Sold on that, sir.
My name is Gary Hines. I'm from Wilmington, Delaware. Hello, Bethany. I saw you earlier today. And I happen to be the co-plaintiff in the Delaware action. And we are very encouraged by the fact, and Mr. Rings, I think you said it a moment ago, that when they put this deal together, they were a little bit too smart by half. And nobody sat in Washington, and they are the brightest people in the world, but they do make mistakes. And nobody sat down and thought, gee, I wonder if there's a state law implication here. And there is, because under Delaware law, you cannot have a class of stock, and this is plain vanilla, I mean, there's nothing special about this. You can't have a class of stock that takes 100% of the profits and leaves nothing for anybody else. It's just absolutely illegal. And it's not me saying it. I'm represented, and my co-plaintiff is represented by a guy named Myron Steele, who I've known for 40 years. Myron is the former Chief Justice of the Delaware Supreme Court. If anybody knows Delaware law, he does. And so we're very, very confident about that part of the case. The other thing I'd like to say, and I came in a little bit late, so I'm not sure if it's been talked about, but as I've looked at this case, and Billy, you might want to comment on this, I agree with you that the original deal, 10% coupon on the preferred, and what we call on Wall Street the sweetener of 79.9% of the equity, which could be worth another $400 to $500 billion for the Treasury. A lot of shareholders don't like that deal, but I think that that's a fair deal. But that having been said, the more I've looked into the original circumstances under which the first deal was made, not the Third Amendment, it's clear, very clear, that these companies, despite the narrative that's been put out about being bailed out to the tune of whatever the number happens to be, is false, because they never needed a bailout. Folks, it's always follow the money. And if you follow the money, you will find that it is taken over in order to be used as a vehicle by the government to buy mortgage-backed securities in the fall of 2008 from the banks that were illiquid, and they were used as a vehicle to liquefy the big banks. Now when I first heard that, I thought, oh, this is a great conspiracy theory. But I've done the homework since, and it's true. Now that's not to say that that was not the right thing to do at the time. The building was burning down, you've got to put out the fire, you can't argue, should I use water or a chemical retardant? You got to put out the fire. And if that's what they had to do at the time to save the system, I understand. But to then come back when all those phony, what I call cookie jar accounting entries, which were paper losses, had to be reversed, and then say, oh, now we want 100% of the profit. I mean, that, Bill, I could not agree with you more. That it's so un-American. And I am astonished that the Republicans, whose bedrock principle is private property rights, have turned a blind eye to this. If they can get away with this, as Bill said, put your money somewhere else, because if they can do this to Fannie and Freddie, they can do this to any bank or a financial institution or insurance company in the United States. Very dangerous. Actually, that's not a question.
Okay. Well, appreciate it. Good speech anyway, and thank you. Next, and I hope this is a question.
This is a question. So my name is